My name is Crystal. I'm the Center for Academic Success Director at Pierce College, and I'm also a coordinator for the California Community Colleges Success Network, or 3CSN. And 3CSN is a professional learning organization funded out of the California Chancellor's Office to provide professional learning and networking opportunities for educators of all kinds across all of California. So we specifically focus on the peer educator power portion of 3CSN. So peer educator power can include anybody who's providing peer education support. That can include supplemental instruction leaders. It can be a tutor, embedded or general. It could be a coach. It could be a mentor. It could be a coordinator, classified staff, faculty member, administrator, anybody who works in the field of peer education, and just anybody who's interested in learning about teaching and learning as well. We get together every Friday and we host this really fun party between 3 and 4:30, where we invite a different professional in the world of peer education to come and talk about either something that they do well or a conversation that they have at their institution, so we can kind of share our strengths and build our community together, so our peer education community can grow and become increasingly rich and sophisticated together. So each week we feature a different peer education professional who's going to come in and talk a little bit about those topics that are super relevant or interesting or successful for them. So this week, I am so excited to have Mayfield, who was once a peer educator herself and is now graduated and is now leading peer educators at her campus. So we're so excited to have Mayfield come and talk about how we can help support our students through a more holistic approach. So thank you so much for being here, Mayfield, and take it away.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Mayfield. I'm the Assistant Coordinator for Supplemental Instruction at UCR. I was once an SI leader at Chaffey Community College previous to this. And thanks so much for being here on a Friday afternoon to talk with me about an oh so exciting topic that is campus resources. So this is the invisible blueprint, embedding campus resources in session and tutoring activities. So a couple of outcomes that I have for us today is that we're going to workshop ways to sort of demystify as well as destigmatize student support services. We're going to normalize the use of those resources through the student experience as well as our own experiences, because we were once students too. And in some ways we are still students, right? And we're going to see if we can embed some of those resources within the services that we offer. Even though my background is in supplemental instruction, I do think that this can be pretty transferable for anyone who's a peer mentor or a tutor or anyone like in the writing center. So this is how it's going to work. We'll talk about embedding campus resources in our sessions for the first hour. And if you'd like to stay for after hours, I did prepare a little bit of a killer closer. I mean, if we don't get to it, there are always like chances for questions too, from 4 p.m. to 4:30. And we might even send you some additional materials in the chat, so look out for those. Quick little tutorial for reactions. I love reactions. Those are my favorite things, just in general. If you need to raise your hand, if you have a question, you may do so under reactions. You can also give us some fun little emojis. Never stop with them. Yeah, Lindsay's got it. Thank you. And in order to use the chat, because we will be using the chat quite frequently, you can just hit the chat and then make sure it's set to everyone. But if you need to send a private chat to someone, because there are scenarios where we will need that, make sure you locate the person's name. So a couple of several community agreements so that we can work best together today. Get ready to discuss, create, and share. Give yourself permission to explore new tools and ideas. Definitely interact. As we mentioned, we love being able to use the chats and share and use the breakouts. I did want to add one quick caveat. If you are unable to participate in any of the breakout rooms, definitely send a private chat to Lindsay Lazo. They are the captain of the breakout rooms for me today, and I'm forever grateful. Confusion is great. We welcome confusion and questions. And most importantly, be kind. Support others as they have questions and share observations, because we have so many different experiences that might not work for others, but they are still valuable and provide some pretty important insight in the way that we navigate this structure called academia. So we're going to do a little bit of a chat waterfall. The way that it works is that I have a prompt here for you. How do we feel about the following word, help? So I'm going to give you about a minute to sort of reflect and think about your answer. You're going to type it into the chat, but do not hit send until I tell you to. So I have my timer at a minute. So just kind of think and give me your gut reaction on this following word. Got a lot of people saying support. I'm not mad at that. Like that we have some form of camaraderie. Feeling of being overwhelmed. That's a good one, Jay. Thank you. Someone in need. Oh, Ariella, Ari, I wish people would say it more often. Oh my God, same. Yes, it is pretty scary to say help. Form of gesture, vulnerable and necessary. Yes. Asking for help. Yes, there's so many wonderful responses to this. Crystal loves providing it. Yeah, it is pretty wonderful when we can have people just kind of realizing, okay, I need help. Yeah, chat waterfalls are awesome. I love this activity. Thanks you guys for introducing it to me. So that kind of leads us to my next question for you guys. So what is it that prevents students, or even ourselves, since we were once students, like what prevented students in general from seeking help? And you can use the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, you may do so as well. Yes, Lindsay, thank you.
Yeah, I can get us started. I think one of the biggest things that students tell me about why they don't get help from like other student services, because they don't know what to ask. They don't know what they're actually going there for. So it's kind of, they're like, I know I have to go to a counseling appointment, but what am I supposed to do there? You know? And so they need like a little bit of coaching around like, what do we ask a counselor? What's their purpose? What's their role? That kind of thing.
Right. So there's still like a little bit of that unknown element of, you know, I'm here, what now? Ari shares shame is a big one. Yeah, there can definitely be an element of shame when I mean, we feel like we're supposed to be able to do this, but we can't. And Jay shares frustration, yes. And Crystal says, never wanted to talk to new people. Yeah, relatable. Experience with a lot of social anxiety around people that I didn't know. Yeah, absolutely. Yastin, yes.
I think the most important thing that a tutor or professor or anyone in the class can create is a safe place. So if it is a safe place, anyone can express him or herself, I think. Thank you.
Okay, so so there's this assumption that there's a lack of that safe space when that prevents us from being able to reach out for help. Greg, you actually have something really interesting. Depends on the person you're asking. I almost want to ask for an expansion on that answer if you're able to. Right, thank you so much for sharing that, you guys. Yes, Ari, go ahead.
Can I add to the imposter syndrome thing?
Of course you can.
I relate to that so hard because there's this like fear that like, oh, I don't belong here. And so if people find out, like I'm screwed. And so I can't ask questions, you know, because I should already know these things. And thank you for pointing that out, Lindsay. And I really appreciate that because that I feel seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ari. I also felt seen in that. Okay, thank you guys so much for sharing. So, whoops, I was making sure that I'm on time. So campus resources and you. So these are some of my favorite campus resources that I would often plug in my own sessions and activities. And I'm so grateful for us kind of doing a quick little rundown on why it's so difficult for us to ask for help, because it's important to also remember that we're not alone. And I also mean that in terms of, you know, as peer educators, like the entirety of the responsibility of the student is not just on us, we also have help. And so, of course, we know like we have academic support services like tutoring, supplemental instruction, success centers, and certainly not limited to that. Some other of my favorites to plug in my sessions are specialized workshops that might be subject specific, whether it be things on stereotype threats or something a tad more practical like time management. There are also presentations from guest speakers that your institution might be holding. Some institutions will have like a series that are pretty time sensitive, so it's important to be able to know a good deal about what that service is being offered and if it would be of benefit to students. Sometimes you can't really tell, so it's okay to do that like more generally. And of course, student well-being. Like we want our students to be in a place where they can foster like that love of learning. So things like financial aid, basic needs like pantries, and health services, including mental health services. So these are by no means like an encompassing list. These are just some of my favorites that I would like to plug, and I'll tell you how I like to plug them in a moment. But go ahead and tell me in the chat, are there any particular like underrated campus or community resources that you really like? Food pantry, yes, absolutely. Disability resources, yes. Yeah, I had a student bring in like a couple of sandwiches like from the pantry. It was pretty awesome. EOPS, affinity groups like Rise and Raza. Oh, could you explain what Rise and Raza is or are? If you can, because I would be I'm super intrigued. Blackademia. Oh, Umoja is a good one too. For African and African American students. Ascend, Puente. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing, you guys. Okay, we're gonna put this in our back pocket because, ooh, the health center. Yes, oh my goodness. I plugged the living crap out of the health center, you guys. There's so many amazing things that they offer. And yeah, underappreciated is definitely like a solid detail to describe them as. Oh, okay, I understand. Thank you, Liz. I appreciate that. Okay, Liz says that Rise and Raza and Ash, these are groups for Black and Brown students, first-gen college students, and Latinx students, etc. Yes, so definitely those special interest groups that might be of benefit to students would be like absolutely wonderful to plug in your activities and the way that you support students. 100%. Thank you. Okay, so real quick, do students like actually seek out these resources when we just announce them or like have them on our Canvas page or just anything like that? Just have them on a nice little bulletin board. I'm seeing some shaking heads. Yeah, not always. So that's why it's so important to be able to show, don't tell. It also encourages more independent learning because starting is the hardest part. I think we all understand that you know, the beginning, just starting line can be so difficult, can be the most difficult obstacle. And I do think that there's better retainment of the information when we have it already embedded within the context of our activity. And yes, Crystal, we're way too busy to pay attention to announcements posted on a corkboard. Yeah, that's the perfect way to describe it. I would also say that it's very equitable because it does demystify and destigmatize using those sources. Because if other students, or if they see you knowing how to navigate those resources, then maybe it's something that they can absolutely navigate as well. So a couple of example activities that I've seen other SI leaders use, and ones that I've used myself. A couple sample ones would be like a think, pair, share. Students do have like past experience or might have past experiences on resources that they have used and how they worked for them, if they worked well or didn't. And so that can be a very valuable activity to be able to run with your students. So they know that, you know, their peer is using it, so it must be okay for them to use it too. And maybe like anything for them to be aware of as well. Icebreakers. So sometimes what you can do, because I've heard that it's not often, but I do hear that some students are very resistant to icebreakers. And so sometimes whenever there's a scholarship that's up and running, they might have a prompt that they need to answer. And so having a prompt of that scholarship as an icebreaker might be a really excellent way to have them already thinking about that prompt, maybe jotting it down and sharing it with a partner only to their comfort, because sometimes those prompts can be quite personal. And at the very end of the activity, you can be like, congratulations, you have the start of a product that you can use for a couple of these scholarships that have this deadline. A super fun one is also scavenger hunts. So if you have like a particular resource that has like an elaborate web page, UCR has I mean, the entirety of their website is a very big, vast place. And so having them do like a scavenger hunt on a particular resource, like, you know, look for this resource's contact info, look for like anything in particular in like the Q&A section that you find really interesting. Like that can be a really fun way to have them actually explore the website and even share with a partner. This one is a personal favorite, gutting secondary sources. So JSTOR and other online databases are really challenging to also navigate, especially for students who aren't totally familiar with these databases. And so one thing that I usually like to do is have students take an article that we find together and gut that source. So what that means is they'll read like the first like page or two, the last page or two of the article, and then some random couple of paragraphs in between. And then I'll give them like a list of questions on what they had just read, like what's the thesis, stuff like that. This is more so for like humanities or anyone who deals with a lot of writing, because oftentimes students struggle with like reading an entire article. And technically, I mean, for anyone who's gone to grad school, how many of us actually would read articles from beginning to end? See, I see Lindsay laughing. I'm not alone on here. So it's important to not only show them a method of how to do that, but also explore within this just this vast land of search engines. And then here's one that's quite particular to online, although I'm sure you could maybe find a way to do this in person, but sort of a make your own adventure. And it's basically like a tutorial. So when you use like screen share or your when you have like screenshots, or even when you're screen sharing like your whatever website that you're on for a particular resource, you tell them, okay, so I'm in the right now I'm in, let's say, EOPS, like on their website. What should I click next in order to move on with the process? And so if you could do something like that without submitting anything, of course, unless you're a student too, that needs to do that. I mean, you can do that. Just be aware of any like personal information that you wouldn't want to share, of course. So what we're going to do now that I've done like a lot of sharing, I want you guys to share. So what sort of resources did you wish that you could tell your past self to use? And so I'm going to have you guys maybe think about this and jot down any notes that you need to jot down for about 2 to 3 minutes. And once you do that, you're going to share with a partner. Your partner will find that resource and how to use or apply for it. So I got 2 minutes, and then we'll break out into breakout rooms in pairs. Once again, if you're unable to do this, make sure you reach out to Lindsay Lazo, our captain. Okay. So just to reiterate, we're going to send you out into breakout rooms. You'll have maybe about 5 minutes or so to be able to share with one another, and your partner will help you find that resource and how to use or apply for it. And it's totally okay if you guys are from completely different institutions. This is just a fun little summarize the procedure type activity. Okay. All right. And open sesame.
How long are we in breakout rooms? Real
Oh,
quick.
thank you for
We have a
reminding
timer?
me. You guys will most likely be in there for about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
I legit almost went into the breakout room that said no breakout. Otherwise, like you would have to like, yeah, go into, yeah, anyways. Welcome back, everyone. So does anyone want to share what resource they wish they could have like told their past selves or inner child to use? And you don't have to like go into details, of course. Yeah, go ahead, Ari.
I didn't start going to the tutoring center until one of my professors said, you're going to get extra credit if you go to the tutoring center. And if I had gone sooner, life would have been a lot easier. Like the guidance that tutors provide and that now I get to provide would have been really valuable earlier on, because I started way late in the game going to tutoring.
Yeah, I'm seeing some learning centers too. Yeah, Yazan?
Well, we discussed in room number 4 the other things that everyone wanted. One of the things that I wanted was assistant robots, because
Awesome.
everything that happens, it is cost reduction right now. So if we have some assistant robots, I think it will help in the future.
You know what? Like you're onto something, because a lot of students do make use of their phones. And I will tell you that one thing that I do wish that I would have used back when I was a student was there's this really cool app. It's called Forest, but I've heard some people call it Flora. But it basically like you set a timer and it keeps your dirty mitts out of your apps, like for that allotted time. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you for clearing that up, because I tried finding Forest again. I have it on my phone, but when I recommend it, other people can't find it. And so I'm like, well, I guess I'm the last person alive who still uses Forest. But yeah, thank you, Yazdan.
Thank you.
Okay, no worries. EOPS. Yeah, I would agree to that one too. Because I mean, you technically apply to that one, and if you qualify, they'll give you additional resources, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the resources that my group talked about was the library. I feel like that library is really underrated. And I think librarians can do and show a lot of things in terms of just like resources in the library, of course, for like papers and things like that, but also even just like the way that you access those resources too. Like I was talking with my group about how during grad school, I realized I was good at research, but not the best. And like I visited with a librarian for like 10 minutes and they showed me one like trick, and suddenly I had like a million more research articles to read. And it was like the smallest thing. And like they kind of like talked to me about key terms. And then suddenly I had access to so much more resources. And I was like, wow.
Wait, may I ask what the small trick was?
In
you remember?
EBSCO, at least for my university, if you go in EBSCO, you can select databases and then just click all of them. And then it searches every single EBSCO database for research articles instead of just like, you know, like PsycInfo or something like that.
Okay, so that's important because I never knew how to use that database in my entire life until now. I use JSTOR because of that reason. Awesome. Oh my God, you guys, I've already learned so much today, and it was in an activity. So how awesome is that? Okay, so what we're gonna do now is I want you guys to make an activity. So using the resource that you may have mentioned in the icebreaker, or perhaps a resource that you've always really wanted to plug, try to embed that resource within an activity or a practice that you already facilitate with your students. So this is pretty like a pretty tall order that I'm giving you guys, and I do apologize, but understand that, as Crystal likes to say, you know, I'm not asking you guys to reinvent the wheel. You are going to be essentially doing as you typically do in your practice or in your activities that you like to facilitate, and you're just gonna hide that little broccoli into that fruit smoothie. So how are you going to embed your campus resource or community resource if there's something that you think students could benefit from that's outside the university? I'm gonna give you guys about, what time is it? 40? Okay, great. So I'm gonna give you guys maybe about 10 minutes. This is gonna be pretty generous here. Yeah, I love broccoli too, for sure. Okay, so what questions do we have before we continue? Or do we know what we gotta do? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the timer. It's about 10 minutes. I'll check in on you guys in 5 minutes though. Awesome.
Welcome back,
great.
everybody.
Yes, welcome back. Thanks so much, you guys. I am like just geeking at that function where you can kind of tell that people are still super just talkative and engaging, and that's always awesome. So let's go ahead and do a final share out before we move on into the after party. So what are some activities that you guys shared that embedded like a resource? Yes, Dan, go for it.
Well, in breakthrough number 4, me, Eduardo, and Sierra, the director, and most of us, we do something like this. Think pair is something like this, or some group talking. But you know, we came to conclusion this works if the number of students in the class are not too many, meaning that it should be 15 or maybe 17. If more than that, it's impossible to do something like this. So this is what we came up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's doable, but yeah, that can be like really loud. Crystal, what's up?
Well, I just want to share that we in our center, we recently put out a big old bowl of like candy and like treats and things. And then we littered that bowl with like little flyers and resources around the bowl. So people come and like pick up a Tootsie Roll or a little bag of instant oatmeal, and oh, look at that, there's an EOPS flyer. I didn't see that before. It's a good way to attract humans.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, you would be surprised. We have a bunch of, I mean, predominantly adults at college. And yeah, like even in our 30s and up, like we're always super excited at a piece of candy. Like who isn't, right? Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else who would like to share what they came up with or what they discussed? Might I add that I'm a former SI leader. I will wiggle myself until end time. Yeah, oh my God, that's so cool. Lindsay Lazo shared, my group talked about walking the students over to the resources. That is awesome. And then what?
I mean, at least for me, like I'm a success coach. And so a lot of the folks from those resources have come to present. So I can direct them to that person and be like, I really trust this person. They can really help you. You know, or leave it to you to talk with this person. So like having them go to that resource and giving that warm handoff really.
Yes, that's excellent because I mean there are two things that I want to add to that. I mean, number one, yeah, having like a face to a department, like that is so helpful to have because then students have, you know, a name that they can go seek out. Sometimes you'll get students who will just email randomly someone for whatever service they need, and it's a valiant effort, but when you have someone specifically that you can send to them, like that's super invaluable. And the second thing I wanted to say about that is that this is a really smart like marketing tool too. This is something that if any of you guys have ever worked in retail or like sales or whatever, I used to be a bookseller at Barnes & Noble. And one of the things that we were required to do is that if anybody ever asked, hey, where's this book located? We don't just point and like direct them there. We walk them there, find the book for them and give it to them like in their hands. And so, yeah, that's fantastic. Greg says, our EOPS secretary is a former tutor, so I could drag her to my session and make her participate. Oh, for sure. Yes. Can you tell me how to pronounce your name? Enha?
Enha, yeah,
Enha.
that's right.
Yes.
And yes, okay.
Awesome.
So in the Grossmith College, we used to have a success coach, and their office is in the same building of tutoring. So it was easy for me. Just once when I get a student and I am a working student. I don't know what to do, which classes to do first, which the ones that best in my schedule. I said, okay, just relax. Don't stress yourself. Follow me. I get them right away to their office. They are really wonderful two ladies, and they have been giving a lot of service to the students, planning their study, guiding them what to do, how, for example, for the scholarship deadline, anything like this. Yeah, they were really helpful. And even when we were in COVID, they were online working too. Yeah, I think they are still there. They are still there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, Crystal?
That's awesome. I love all these ideas of walking people to places. And for those of us who are working online too, you know, I just want to point out that, you know, it takes 2 minutes to go to the website and show them how to get to the website and, you know, help them apply to something or, you know, guide them to that online as well. Sometimes even when we're in person, we'll grab a computer or like have a student show us their phones and actually take them to it virtually if you can't physically walk over there too.
Excellent. Thank you for adding that, Crystal. Any one more person would like to share what they kind of came up with or discussed? Oh, and Crystal did leave some goodies for you in the chat. Okay. All right, thank you guys so much for sharing. Today we workshopped how to show the process of resources, or at least I hope you were able to workshop some of those, as well as normalize using those student support services through these various like different, almost pseudo marketing strategies that we kind of came up with and shared today. I will get to our after parties discussion, but I will give it to Crystal if she would like to share anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I know some of you need to leave in a minute. If you want to hang out, we're going to dive a little deeper and do some more fun stuff. But if you do need to leave, I put some links in the chat. Link number 1 is the application to facilitate one of these in spring 2023. And if you want to facilitate these and you have no idea how to do it, that's cool. We've got you. I will walk you through it personally. We'll assign you a mentor and we'll help you out with it. But if you know what you're doing and you already have an idea, you can run with it too. So please consider presenting one of these in spring 2023. Also, we'd love your feedback. The second link is a link to some feedback just to give us a little bit of information about how we can change these and make these better in the future. Of course, join us for future sessions. Next week we are off. So next week is a holiday, but the week after that, the good folks from ACLA are going to be talking about whole brain learning. So we would love to see you in 2 weeks. And if you're going to stay, hang out and we'll have a good time. And if you do need to leave, make sure you give Mayfield a big round of emoji applause before you go. Thank you so much, Mayfield, for facilitating this. It's a first time as our coordinator, but a long time participant in our amazing community. So
Thank you.
thanks for all who are leaving and thanks for all who are staying too.
Thanks so much, you guys.